Oh, there we go. Is that
Okay, now you're stuck with me.
okay? It's
I don't want to
working.
be by myself.
Guys, welcome to the meeting. If you want to, we're not starting officially, but if you want to make a public comment, please see the orange comment cards there at the back and put a name and hand it to the clerk here at the front.
I guess,
All right, it's just 6 o'clock, so we will call the meeting to order, the regular meeting of the Planning Commission today on September 12th, 2023. And I will start by asking our city clerk to take roll.
There we go. Testing? Yeah. Commissioner Bauer?
Here.
Commissioner Wisman?
Here.
Vice Mayor Cater Thompson?
here,
Chair Hooper, absent. Commissioner McKeerling, absent. Vice Chair Commissioner Rackison?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Terrific. And then we'll go straight into general public comment. During general public comment, the public is invited to make comments on items of public interest that are within the Planning Commission's subject matter jurisdiction that are not listed on the current agenda. Public comments are limited up to 3 minutes per person. Depending on the number of persons wishing to address the Planning Commission, time will be allocated in equal shares, totaling no more than 15 minutes. So as we open general public comment, again, I'll remind everyone, if you want to speak at this time, you can find speaker cards, orange speaker cards there in the back. Fill it out with your name and bring it up front to the clerk. Thus far, we have one in-person public comment, and I'll ask the clerk if we had any comments prior to the meeting.
We received no general public comments prior to the meeting.
Okay, well, then we'll just kick it off with our general public comment, and the first speaker is Noel M.
Good evening. Thank you. Two items that I wanted to speak about that are non-agenda but are Planning Commission related. First is to relay the memorandum and the story poll resolution that was shared at City Council last night. I think that's an important aspect to communicate both to you all. I would appreciate that you're aware of it, but I think in terms of the public record, it's important knowledge specifically as it relates to the hotel development. And I am strongly in favor of story polls, excuse me, in general for all planning projects, but specifically for this project. So I encourage you please to look at that. It empowers the Planning Commission or anybody within the development arena within the city to determine that story polls are required. There is a residential project contained within the memorandum. And I think if a residential project is worthy of story poles, then certainly a 6 to 7 story hotel adjacent to the historical district is absolutely worthy of that. Additionally, there's a view shed exhibit which just landed for the city, which is related to the Historical Planning Commission's work, which appears to be slated for October 3rd. It, in my opinion, is less than meaningful in respect to where the view sheds have been taken and the perspective and I'll put it as perhaps opportunism with respect to the angles and the tree shading. So that's another aspect for reinforcing story poles as the truest way for something that's so significant to the community to be expressed in terms of its true impact for all of us. I think we want a transparent process for everybody. There's also another exhibit that I submitted into the record, which is an assessment of one of the view shed documents. And from my interpretation, and I believe I'm correct in this, the trees are rendered at 6 to 8 feet higher than they actually are next to the Rex Hotel. If you look at the exhibit, you'll see how we have determined where the top of the windows is in an actual photograph relative to the bottom of the canopy. And you'll see how the applicant has rendered those. And that's extremely convenient because behind those trees that are 6 to 8 feet high is the hotel. There's a question within our group whether or not the hotel is rendered accurately. We're going to assess that more, but I encourage you to look at that. And we want the fairest, most transparent and factual process, please, as we continue to consider the overlay and the hotel. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. That is the only speaker card we have in the audience here. So with that, I will close general public comment and we'll move straight into approval of minutes. So the first item of our meeting, approval of minutes for the meeting August 22nd, 2023. Do any commissioners here have any amendments, changes, or requests to those minutes?
I will be abstaining because I wasn't at the meeting.
Thank you for that. Without any other comments, I would just like to add that I noticed the resolution passed did not have the conditions listed in the minutes. And I appreciate we got a memo today about minutes and why they're prepared the way they are. I think it would be great to add in there, if we do offer approvals and there are conditions of approval, it would be great to have those in there because I think they're important. But with that, would anyone move to approve the minutes?
I will. Second.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Chair Hooper absent, Commissioner McKierlane absent, Commissioner Racketson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wisman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cater Thompson,
Abstaining?
abstained. Minutes are approved.
All right, thank you. So that takes us through item 1, and now we'll move to item 2, public hearings and matters for consideration. And so this will be a recommendation to the Planning Commission to conduct a public hearing and consider approval of a resolution to recommend that City Council adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Petaluma Implementing Zoning Ordinance to add Section 5.060, establishing a senior mobile home overlay district and authorizing a zoning map amendment to zone 5 existing self-designated senior mobile home parks to create a senior mobile home park overlay district. So this item does require a public hearing, and I'll start with asking any commission members if there are any ex parte communications on this. Okay, seeing none, we'll jump right into the presentation, and I'll ask Assistant City Attorney Dylan Brady to give the city's presentation.
Sorry for that. Thank you, Vice Chair. Like you said, this is a recommendation to City Council to be making both a zoning code amendment as well as a zoning map amendment. And really, this potential amendment came about a couple months ago, or actually July. City Council passed a new rent stabilization ordinance for mobile homes that set what the annual cap is, as well as strengthen the other existing protections to tenants. And as part of that amendments, a lot of the tenants expressed a desire, as well as City Council, to have the senior mobile home overlay ordinance brought before them. So that is why we are here now. As part of our noticing requirements under our code, we are required to have a public meeting. That was accomplished last Thursday. I estimate about 100 people attended. It was very well attended and generally all in favor. I don't think there was one person against it. There is a memo attached to the record about a couple questions that occurred related to the overlay ordinance. So what is an overlay ordinance? It's kind of, sorry about that, a scary term right now with the hotel potential, but it is a zoning tool that the city has used in the past, and a lot of cities have it as part of their zoning code. It is an amendment to the zoning code, and what it does is it adds standards and rules on top of the already existing ones. You see them quite frequently on non-contiguous, non-adjacent parcels that all have similar qualities. Like I said, Petaluma, we currently have 3. That's the historical overlay, floodplain, and theater, and all have additional standards on top, and that's the overlay. It's on top. So what this ordinance would do, or proposed ordinance, I should say, is add additional standards to 5 of the 7 mobile home parks here in Petaluma. 5 of those 7 parks are already, through their own local rules, self-designated as senior parks. And they're able to do this. There's the Fair Housing Accountability Act, which prevents discrimination based on renting and selling to gender, sex, religion, national origin, familial status. But there is, it's known as the senior exemption, for a carve-out for the Fair Housing Act, where community groups and community households are able to rent as long as 3 kind of factors are met, or prongs. The first is that 80% of the occupied spaces must be above the 55 years or older. There needs to be rules and procedures that show the intent to keep it a senior community, and then there needs to be verification. So these 5 existing senior parks, and these are what the 5 parks are: Leisure Lakes, Petaluma Estates, Royal Oaks, Cottages of Petaluma, Youngstown, which makes up about 724 spaces here in Petaluma. They all currently are designated as senior parks through their own local rules, so they have these rules in place. 80% of the spaces, again, must be occupied by one person 55 or older. There must be rules and procedures to show the intent to be a senior park, and verification to HUD. So what the city is proposing is to keep those standards currently in place and to have the requirements be codified in our zoning code and zoning amendment. So these are the 3 regulations here. It would preserve the status quo to make sure that those parks don't change to all age parks. And that's for several reasons. One is that mobile homes, although they are called mobile home, they really aren't mobile. It costs a lot and maybe prohibitively expensive to remove one unit to another unit. And so tenants make substantial investments to buy these units, and under the premise of conscious effort to live in a senior home, and then if the park rules change the rules to all age, well, it's hard for those tenants to potentially move to another senior home because of the cost to remove a mobile home. So this locks in those current places through our zoning code, and really what it does is it preserves the status quo for those 5 self-designated parks to remain as senior citizen. And just again, there's real policy reasons to have this, to keep a already existing and continue to age in public, or Petaluma. Back in 2000, our housing element says there was 11% of the population was senior citizens. Now it's up to 18%. And senior citizens are disproportionately cost burdened with their housing. So this will preserve affordable mobile home units and housing for the senior citizens. Again, these would be the 5 of the 7 parks that this overlay would encompass. Here is a map of where those 5 parks are located. And like I said, it'll be a zoning map amendment as well. So these parks, if you look at the zoning map, will have, if adopted, they're currently mobile home zone, but they will be called MHS, mobile home, and then the S stands for senior. So that is what the zoning map looks like. Let's see, next slide. For all zoning code amendments, recommendations to council, planning commission needs to make 2 findings. One is that there's general plan conformance, that the amendment conforms with the general plan, and that it is consistent with the public necessity, convenience, and welfare. So, like I said, this is keeping those 5 self-designated parks the same that are currently already in compliance with our general plan. There wouldn't need to be any other changes to our general plan. And specific general plan conformance, there's program 18 and 24 of our recently adopted housing element. 18 is preservation of at-risk housing. 24 is senior housing options. And then policy 6P24 recognize the unique needs of Petaluma seniors. And the resolution makes these findings, but if the Planning Commission decides tonight to make this recommendation to council, I would ask that we add the specific Program 18, Program 24, 6P24 into the resolution. And specifically, that would be Section 5. And I can help make those edits if necessary. And again, that this amendment is in the welfare and consistency and public good is it will allow senior citizens to age in place. They already have a strong sense of community in keeping these homes and units intact and parks intact. So here, and there's a memo in the packet about the CEQA compliance. Again, since these 5 parks are already self-designated as senior parks, there really isn't going to be any physical changes to the parks. So this is exempt under the common sense because there's no indirect or direct foreseeable impacts. Last night, City Council adopted a shelter crisis declaration. And this CEQA section 15269, that's an emergency exemption for any action that will help mitigate an emergency. So this will help mitigate the shelter crisis that council just adopted last night. Existing facilities, that's class 1. There's going to be no changes, as well as 15305, minor alterations in land use, where there is no change in the intensity and use. And again, this is just keeping the status quo. And I did forget to mention, so the regulations for the ordinance, again, all parks would be 80%, must stay occupied, 1 person age 55 or older. Any signs, advertisement, leases must state that it is a senior mobile home park, and they need to verify every 2 years through certification to the city that they are complying with our city ordinance. And this certification, as part of our mobile home rent amendments, the parks owners are already required once a year to submit a packet to the city to make sure that the city is aware of what is going on in the mobile home parks and that they're complying with the city's mobile home rent stabilization. So this would not be an additional burden. It would be on the same page, maybe additional couple lines and questions that the park owners would need to fill in to make sure that the occupied units are 80% or above. So that would be the recommendation, to make this recommendation, adopt the resolution to City Council to amend the zoning code and zoning map for the 5 self-designated mobile home parks to create the senior mobile home park overlay district. Here would be the tentative dates that it would go to council if adopted. October 2nd would be the first reading. Then October 16th would be the second reading. And that's my presentation. Happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan, for the presentation. And I will turn it over to fellow commissioners for questions. And I'll throw in our usual caveat that we don't want to go into commentary, but keep it to questions at this point. And then we will do public comment and then our commentary after that. So do any commissioners have any questions? I will start and just start to my left and work all the way through. So Commissioner Wisman, I will start with you.
So just a general question. What is the general governing principles of the code or of the overlay? Does it apply an existing code? Does it apply, will it be a new code that'll be developed or?
Good question. So it would be a part of our zoning code. It would be a small little section. It is included in the resolution. And I can just briefly kind of read off what the sections require. Section A is the intent and purpose. Section B is the definitions of conversion, mobile home park, senior mobile home park. C, it lists what those 5 parks are that the district would apply to. Section D are those 3 rural regulations about you need to have every unit needs to be, or 80% of the occupied units need to be over 55 or older. Section E is the limitations on rental, where if it gets below the 80%, you then need to continue, or the next people need to qualify as senior citizen. Section F is the minimum design standards and performance. That is the advertisements and leases that they need to designate themselves and as senior parks. And then Section G is the annual certification. Section 8 is the violations, which is the city's remedies for violations of the code. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah.
that's what
So
the ordinance looks like.
Everything you're reading from, is that a draft document that
It is,
we'll see
yes.
at a future date? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So those new standard specifications, those will be established as an overlay on the existing ICO.
Correct. And as those 5 parks are already self-designated as senior parks, they're already required by HUD and the Fair Housing Act to have 80% of the occupied units be age 55 or older. They need to have verification to HUD that they are complying, and they need to have rules and procedures that show that it is a senior park. So really, there shouldn't be any changes from this ordinance to what those 5 existing parks are. But what this ordinance does do is it prevents those parks from changing their local rules, because now they would be in violation of the zoning code.
Okay. Okay. And then just in terms of, establishing, like rules and consistency, how consistent is this or not with, neighboring cities?
So I don't know if there are neighboring cities that have a similar ordinance. The staff report does cite, I would say 5 or 6, American Canyon, so that's probably the closest one. Other cities, Huntington Beach, Ventura County, San Juan Capistrano, Santa Clarita, Oceanside, City of Yucaipa, San Buenaventura, and then Yountville as the other jurisdictions that have similar ordinances.
Okay. That's it. Vice Chair, thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Wisman. Commissioner Bauer?
Thank you very much. Just wondering, where does the 80% come from? Why not 85, 90, 95%?
That's a good question. The state legislature, or maybe even, the people in HUD that enforce the rules, I would say. But I'm not entirely sure where they got 80% from.
Is that something that's art discretionary or?
I don't believe so. And this ordinance is adopted specifically to get that senior exemption carve out. So the carve out is 80%. So we mirror that. We also mirror the City of Yucaipa's ordinance, which was challenged and upheld through a federal court.
Okay, thank you. And then what is the enforcement? Like, what if they don't adhere to it? What happens?
So the city would have its full slate of enforcement. That would be administrative remedies, which would be fines up to $1,000 per violation per day, criminal misdemeanor citations, It could also seek a civil injunction to require these parks to comply with the city ordinance.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bauer. And then I'll skip over me and go straight to Vice Mayor Cater Thompson.
I don't have any comments or questions. I always have comments.
I was going to say, you without comments, I don't believe it. So I will go to my questions. I think the first of which you answered, which was whether there had been legal challenges to other jurisdictions. Was Yucaipa the only jurisdiction that had a legal challenge to their overlay?
Yes, and that was a federal court, but there was also the Attorney General in California, in one of his opinions or her opinions, said that such an ordinance like this would be legal under California rules as well.
Okay, and then have we gotten feedback from any of the other affected mobile home park owners other than Youngstown?
Not that I'm aware of. And again, what Youngstown is trying to convert to an all age, but the other four, this would be essentially the status quo in the existing. So I don't think that there would be too much concern from them.
Okay, terrific. And then another question I had was just in terms of conditioning future land use, does this overlay in any way impact landowners or make it more difficult to change their land use from a mobile home park than it already is? Or can you talk about that process? If in the future one of the current property owners wanted to change away from a mobile home park, is this somehow preventing them or adding burdens that are much greater than what already exists with current zoning?
Yeah, so all 7 of the existing parks in Petaluma are currently zoned as mobile home parks. That is the only allowable use for these 7 parks. If one of the 5 parks, assuming the ordinance gets adopted, wanted to change to a different use, that would not affect it because it would get rid of both the overlay as well as the mobile home use. But it would require a zoning amendment, which would have to go to Planning Commission as well as City Council.
So there's already a pretty big threshold to changing land use at all.
Correct.
With or without the overlay. Okay, terrific. Well, barring no other questions from Vice Mayor Cater Thompson?
Just want to state that tonight at the Cotati City Council, they're doing an interim emergency ordinance prohibiting the conversion of senior mobile home parks. So that's starting tonight, Cotati, and I'm sure it'll trickle down to the rest of the parks in the county.
And maybe we'll play a part in precedent. Well, then, barring any other commissioner questions, I will open the public hearing and open public comment. So the public is invited to comment on this item. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. If you have not done so already and you would like to make a public comment, please see the orange speaker cards in the back where you'll fill in your name and hand it to the clerk. If you can come up and speak and hand those cards in after as well. And I will ask the city clerk if we have received any comments, public comments on this item prior to the meeting.
We received 3 public comments for this item. They were posted online and they're also available in the dais in the back to view.
Okay, terrific. Well, I have one public comment here, so I will ask Nicola Fry to come forward to the speaker booth here for public comment.
Hello, my name is Nicola Fry. I live in the Petaluma Estates Mobile Home Park. I'm also on the Petaluma Senior Advisory Committee, and I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Rebuilding Together Petaluma. I've lived in Petaluma since 1970, moved to my current home approximately 15 years ago. Living in this community has afforded me security and safety, while giving me neighbors who are active and involved in maintaining a sense of closeness and caring. Recently, due to the change in the attitude of the owner and the manager of the park, we have all experienced unnecessary retaliation and the sudden loss of the joy of living on our own community. I wish to express my strong support for the Mobile Home Park Senior Overlay proposal. Senior mobile home parks provide affordable housing options for many residents, fostering a sense of community and stability. This overlay will protect the seniors who reside in the parks those valuable resources that ensure fair treatment for residents while maintaining the character of our neighborhoods. It's a step in the right direction towards housing equity for all, especially for seniors. I urge you to approve this vital initiative for the benefit of our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'll call on the next speaker, Jody Johnson, and after Jody will be Tim Porteous.
Good evening. The senior park overlay zoning designation is paramount to keeping the senior citizens intact in their own owned mobile home parks. And it will stop the retaliatory efforts that happen across the nation right now from heavy investors that come in and wish to change things when they don't like the way things are going. They already are actually giving us, or actually our property, our ground rents are so high to begin with. And so we asked for this senior park overlay after a revision of the rent stabilization ordinance in July, and immediately we were retaliated within about a week. And that was to all age. Even now, the park owners have it listed all over as a all-age park, even though it hasn't been noticed or changed in status. And they even indeed sold one last week under the guise that they're all-age already. So it is very important to the senior citizens in the 5 mobile home parks in Petaluma that you could be the first city in California here, in our area, I mean in Northern California, that set the precedence that senior citizens matter and they have a right to protect their homes and to live out their lives in peace. And I thank you.
Thank you, Jody, for your public comment. And then I will ask Tim Porteous to come and give public comment.
Hello, Commissioners. As you heard, my name is Tim Porteous. I am a Youngstown resident and mobile owner. I'm paying like $11.80 right now. They want to put on $9.24 unilaterally across everything. They have threatened us with the all-age park. They've twice threatened us to close the park, just shut it down. You weren't here during the first arbitration, but that man, Daniel Weisfield, said specifically he hunted for a town that didn't have elder protections. He said, I landed here because this is the one. He wants to get rid of the old trailers and all the old drug addicts. That's in there. I've been in Petaluma for 40 years. I raised 2 sons here, and I never thought of this. I never thought of turning 65. I am 65. And it's a blatant, awful attack. I mean, the anxiety is phenomenal. We wait every time driving up to our homes to see the envelope that's taped to something, or to wake up to the envelope taped to something, and more threats. And they're fast and hard. They are really using it to push. They're pushing us. They want us out. They really do. They've made it clear. There's no question. They want us out. So the anxiety and the depression, if you start singling out individuals within our parks, and especially ours, it's heavy right now. A lot of people are really under it because we're all scared to death. We're scared to death. It's going to happen, and we don't know how to stop it unless we turn to you guys, because you're in the one position now where you could really help not just us, but help to stop the kinds of persons that are willing to purchase this place and try to drive people out just because we're vulnerable. And it's true. I mean, for business, it's brilliant. It's terribly awful, but it can be very effective. There's 54 parks in his pocket now. That's what's happening. Please keep that in mind. And if another city here needs a little kick in the butt, you guys are jumping on the stick, it's going to show them. And the rest of the parks need to be warned. All these people need to be told that look out, because these people are coming to take it from you. So please, do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim, for your public comment. And I would invite any of the other members of the public in attendance, if you would like to come up and give public comment, please step forward. Just make sure that after your comment, you do fill out an orange card in the back and hand it to the clerk. Thank you, and give us your name before you begin.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Beth Peck. I am also a resident at Youngstown Mobile Home Park, except like most of the folks here, I am a renter. And I have been in Petaluma since 2001. I raised my family here. I thought I had a good job here. I used to work for the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District. After 23 years, I retired disability. One would think that I should be able to get by on having such a good job in such a beautiful community, except as has been mentioned here by these folks ahead of time, I am feeling the same stress that they are. I watched my next door neighbor be priced out when his rent just kept going up year after year after year. My rent is going up year after year after year. I, at the age of 56, don't feel that I can continue to stay in Petaluma because I'm going to be priced out. And at the age of 56, I'm looking at moving now because I don't want to be forced out 10, 15 years from now. Imagine the stress of having to move when you get that much farther down the road. And I've landed myself a housemate. I'm now in the process of looking to move. As they said, they're trying to get us out. And honestly, one should look at the ethics of a company that comes into a community and specifically targets people who are on a fixed income. There's something terribly, terribly wrong, and I can't thank you all enough for holding our hands and trying to help the people that have been here, those who should be supported by their community instead of being forced out. I thank you so much for your time. Thank you for hearing my comments, and thank you for helping us any way you can.
Thank you for your public comment. Barring any other members of the public who want to come forward and offer comment, I will close the public hearing portion of this item and end the public comment period. And I'll just give an opportunity for staff to respond if you have any responses briefly.
Nothing here, Vice Chair.
And Vice Mayor Kidder Thompson, I see you signaling.
Yeah, I'm just curious, when they're talking about this, they've already sold a mobile home or a modular manufactured home to younger people?
So that would be a violation of their local park rules. It would not be a violation of this ordinance because that's not in effect yet. So I don't know what the remedies the tenants would have there for violations of their own park rules. Yeah.
And because the next item is to open commissioner discussion, why don't you just kick us off straight into comments and discussion?
Well, my comments are, I mean, I've been to the last arbitration, and they're really taxing. I mean, they're hours long, and it's really difficult to be, it's good to watch one. It really gives it a whole different perspective. But I absolutely support this, and I think that we're going to see this throughout the county. And so I support the overlay and would certainly like to move this, forward and bring it to the council so we can protect all of the residents in this room. And there was a huge rally today, and a lot of them, couldn't go to the rally and then get here. And so there's just all 5 mobile home parks are watching what we're doing today. And I think we need to do the right thing, and we need protection. People deserve to age in place. And I'm absolutely supportive of this. And, when I hear someone like Beth Peck, a young woman, disabled, I mean, it's really difficult. It's fearful being 56 and going through this. And I feel what you're going through, and with all of you, it could really be any of us. So I'm here to move this forward.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And again, I will skip myself and go straight to Commissioner Bauer.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Just hearing your words and your comments and seeing this before me, it really makes me very angry that you have to be here and that this is happening in our community, and a community I think we really take care of each other. And I'm really lucky to be in this position tonight and to have leadership at the city level where they're strong enough and quick enough to bring this to us so quickly so we could do something about it before really bad things start to happen in our community. Because I know our seniors are very, very special to our community, and we want to make sure you can stay here and live here and be among us. And, you know, I think we're a community that cares for all of our people, no matter what our age is. So, and I'm almost 55 myself too. So I'm hoping that one day maybe somebody hopefully will care about me one day, the way we care about all of you and our seniors. So I am 100% supportive of this, and I'm really also supportive of other cities following and using what we do tonight to also take care of their seniors. So, yep, I'm supporting 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bauer. Commissioner Wisman?
Yeah, just a question for the record I forgot to ask earlier. Was there any communication at all from any of the owners?
There was not. Of course, with the notice, we mailed to the park owners, but haven't heard from them.
Okay. I think my comments are pretty brief. I think it's the city is well served by preserving as many housing options and many classifications as possible for the broadest range of our citizens. So simply stated, I'm inclined to support the overlay.
Thank you, Commissioner Wisman. And yeah, I'll close with my comments. I really appreciate that staff did present the idea that folks have moved to these communities and invested a considerable amount of resources and time under the auspices of a senior community, and not just advertising that, but actually going through steps to maintain status as a senior community. So I think that we are well within the public good here to protect folks' investment, allow our seniors to age in place. You know, I also appreciate our Assistant City Attorney laying out that these ordinances have not experienced legal challenge, and the sole jurisdiction that has, it was determined that this does stand up and stand up to legal challenge. So we're not passing anything that unnecessarily infringes on property owner rights, but instead is for the public welfare and the welfare of vulnerable members of our community. And as someone with a father-in-law who's 91 years old living in Petaluma, I like to think that we are doing what we can to protect folks who have, again, invested massive amounts of resource and time into our community. So I am supportive of this as well. I guess with that, it sounds like we've gone through commentary. Unless anyone wants to add anything else, I would invite a motion on this
Vice
item.
Chair, sorry to interrupt.
Please.
Let me share my screen because I'm hoping that the motion could include the specific general plan policies, goals. So at the end of section 5, if we could make a motion with an amendment to add the following paragraph that includes these words to memorialize the policies, goals, and programs that this ordinance would help implement.
I'll make that motion to add Program 18, Program 24, 6-P-24.
I'll second it.
City Clerk, if you can have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Chair Hooper absent, Commissioner McKeerling absent, Commissioner Wisman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cater Thompson,
Yes.
Acting Chair Rackison.
Yes.
Vote passed.
All right, with that, I will close meeting item 2, and we'll continue with the agenda. And I want to thank staff and the public for coming and sharing your thoughts and sharing your experience. And we will continue with the meeting to meeting item 3, which is a discussion item, discussion and deliberation on whether to form an ad hoc committee of the Petaluma Planning Commission with the goal of making recommendations to promote outreach and public participation. And after discussions with staff, I think it makes sense to recommend this meeting item be continued to the next regularly scheduled meeting, seeing as Chair Hooper and Commissioner McGarlane are not with us today. So I would invite a motion on that.
I'll move the motion to reschedule to next meeting.
I'll second.
And clerk, a roll call vote?
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Chair Hooper absent. Commissioner
Yes.
Commissioner McKeerling absent. Commissioner Wisman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kader Thompson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rackison.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, and with that, we'll close meeting item 3 and continue with the agenda. I see we have a member of the public. If you want to step to the dais, I would invite if you have a brief comment. That's okay. If we can keep it really brief, that's okay with me. If you can step behind the mic, though. Thank you.
Untold to you, there have been a number of advertisements, for instance, in Michigan, for the all-age park here at Youngstown, currently going on. Just so you know, I mean, this guy's already doing it, and he's already been told no.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, and thanks for your participation. So we'll close meeting item 3, continue with the agenda, and move into committee comment. So I'd invite commission members to present. And I know there was a late council meeting last night, so why don't I start with Vice Mayor Kader Thompson?
I also had SCTA from 10 to 5 and then had to get to city council, but it was great. First of all, I just want to say this is what I love being an elected council member for. I mean, this is what it's really about. It's really about community, making sure that people have homes to live in, making sure that our ordinances are updated so we're really protecting people. And it is just an honor to represent these people. And I love them all very much. Last night's council meeting was very long. I can't even think of what we did. But we did, what did we do last night? Dylan? Well, actually, the floodway was back. And we upheld the commission's direction to not move forward with the project. And I think it was the right thing to do. But I think it's really important if people do buy land that they really talk to a land use attorney before purchasing a piece of property, because there are constraints and you can't just come to the city and the city say, well, no, you can't do this. I mean, there's a whole process. And I feel as though Ms. Kratt, and I do feel bad, purchased a piece of property that really is in a true floodway. And like I say, I seriously feel bad that somebody would go in that direction, but it's so important to talk to a land use attorney because they really know and can answer the questions. Let's see, at Sonoma SCTA, yesterday we had all morning and through the afternoon were hearings for a new director. Because Suzanne Smith, which I still call her Suzanne Wilford, but she's Suzanne Smith, is retiring, and I just think she has done a fantastic job in her role. And we did choose one of the candidates. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but it is an internal choice, and I think it'll be very good. And all the candidates were really fantastic, and so that's really good news. And then with SCTA, we moved forward to have Caulfield on the list to get funding for Caulfield. And, we hope that that's very successful because we already have money. And this will augment the money that we need to actually complete the Caulfield crossing, which I think is very, very important. What else has been going on? I was in LA And for a 90th birthday party of an old family friend of my grandparents when they came to this country. And it's just so important to really stay connected with people. And even though, we're very different people, it was really a joy just going down there. Even though we're not really blood family, we are family. And so it's just really a reminder that you need to really stay connected with people. And there's just a sense of so much anger in this country that we really have to step back and pause and realize that same reactions actually hit every town. It doesn't matter if you're in California, Petaluma, or if you're in Tennessee. There's people get affected by all the dogma that's going on. And then the other thing is I'm part of a Jewish elected officials group, and we had a retreat this weekend where we really talked a lot about just the hate crimes that are going on with my colleagues. And these are colleagues from Santa Rosa all the way to Livermore, El Cerrito, and all around the Bay Area, and school board members also, and really talked about the hate and what people are really going after. And it's really frightening what they're saying. And next week, I'm going to be at the League of California Cities. There is a conference, and this group, we're called the Banjo Group, and they will be presenting and talking about hate and the experience. And, sometimes when people say they want to have Zoom, a lot of times Zoom has been a real problem. A lot of people will get on there, and I mean, I can't even say what they were being said. The language was so horrid. And so, it's really interesting, after going through COVID and getting on Zoom, which was fantastic, but now it's become kind of a different tool. And so I just think people just need to be aware of that. And just that, does it happen in Petaluma? Probably. But what's happening to my colleagues is really unacceptable, and it seems to be a trend. And so, but the beauty of one of the school board members is that finally, this is I'm going to say what city, there were the Proud Boys going in there, and they were just, standing in the room. Well, all of a sudden the community started coming, and they were very uncomfortable. And so that's how you have to, address issues of hate. You have to bring people in that are not hateful, because the people that are hateful really don't feel comfortable. They feel comfortable to bully, but the second they're surrounded by people that really have good kindness and thoughts and want to be positive, they just kind of buckle in. And so I just want to remind people that, hate is really around, and we may not hear the same things here, but it will happen here, because we know that one of the largest Nazi group, the Goyim group, is out of Petaluma. And it's one of the largest in the nation, and it's going worldwide. And so it's just a reminder of it does happen in our town. We may not see it. I feel it, and I've seen it, but I'm just still really shocked that people are so hateful. And so with that, I just think that we should be more kind to each other. And tonight was just like the best thing that could have ever happened in my entire life. And if I never get anything else right, I really want to make sure that senior citizens are protected in our town, and it really is important, and I thank everybody.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for an emotional and sobering and great commentary. But I'll jump over me and Commissioner Bauer, if you have any updates.
I don't have any updates. I have a few questions for planning manager, but is this the right time, or should I wait for the staff report?
I think this is a good time.
That would be great. And then if I can't answer them now, I'll answer them during the staff report.
Yeah, there's just two of them. One is, can you give us a status update on the objective design standards?
Yes, I'll do that during the planning managers.
And the other thing is, I've been getting a lot of emails about the Rovina apartments, and is
And the same for that as well.
Awesome,
Sure
thank
thing.
you.
Thank you.
Terrific questions. And Commissioner Wisman.
No committee assignments to report on.
Okay, I'll wrap things up then with my committee assignments. Pedestrian and Bike Committee, we are working on the active transportation plan. I'm actually part of the ad hoc committee helping with the vision and goals of that document. And I think we have done an exceptional job of kind of building on the work Fair and Piers has been doing on the ATP plan. I'm excited for the community to get involved. There's also been, before I even joined the committee from planning, and a huge effort put into mapping a new ATP system. So I think, this is finally, it's been building, I think, for years. And this is going to be a great piece to be able to share, alongside the general plan coming along is our active transportation network. And I want to thank Bjorn on that committee. Bjorn is an exceptional staff member, super hands-on, works very hard. So I'm excited about that. And I'll also give an update on the tree committee because Commissioner McGarlane is not here today. And it's been a little while since our last committee meeting, but I think one of the big pieces there is we are discussing potential changes to the ordinance. We may have a presentation soon about the North River Park from Friends of the Petaluma River. So tree committee is kind of a great place right now for some information and presentations on trees and parks around the city. So that closes my update, and by extension, commission member update. So I'll move to staff comment. Planning Manager Andrew Triple to provide the planning manager's report.
Great, thank you. And thank you for your service this evening. The first off, Oyster Cove Planning Commission reviewed Oyster Cove entitlements for Phase 1 entitlements on May 9th of this year. And that project is agendized for review by the council on September 18th. So next Monday, so I wanted to let you know that that's moving forward. Of course, if those entitlements are approved, the project would still then go through a design phase and then come back for its site plan and architectural review by the Planning Commission. But we are looking forward for that project to come before the council. We've been working on that for quite some time, so it will be a great effort to see that through. Second is, as we look forward to the October and November agendas, we'll have a couple of projects coming forward for discretionary review, but I think you're going to experience a lot of ordinance amendments and then the objective design standards as well. So with regard to objective design standards, we did complete internal review within Public Works, Fire, Building Division, Planning, and so forth. And we're convening some stakeholders, both design professionals as well as affordable housing developers, to additionally review to get perspective from the community who would be tasked with implementing and responding to those objective design standards. That is scheduled for September 21st. And then we plan to bring the objective design standards before the Planning Commission for 2 study sessions in October prior to then public hearing. We do need to, because of the terms of the funding for that project, the recommendations need to be completed by the year's end. So we do have a time limit on that. And then we'll have at least one other, I think a pre-annexation, pre-zoning for annexation project that will be coming forward, and perhaps another one. But all that to say then to 2 Ravina Lane, if you recall in July, we had held that workshop and then it was cut short because of the power outage. So I think at the second meeting of this month, we want to circle back and complete that workshop, but I believe add on a little bit of additional examination of SB 35 and SB 330 and some of the other state level legislation that has been adopted over the last several years that is impacting, in particular, discretionary review and streamlining of discretionary review. And I think that information will be helpful as you look at the objective design standards. Additionally, the 2 Ravina Lane project has submitted an SB 330 application and has indicated that they've either submitted this week or they're planning to submit this week for their site plan and architectural review. I believe several of you have been receiving comments from the public and questions from the public about that project. And I think it would be helpful to better understand and to talk about what the SB 330 legislation does in preliminary application and then what that means for the discretionary review application that's submitted. So, Vice Mayor?
I'm not getting those emails. Are they going actually to the planning commission or specific commissioners?
I know a couple of commissioners have received.
I don't know how they're
questions.
picking us out, honestly.
It's a
I mean,
long
normally with
CC
the
chain.
council, we just, they send it to all of us. And so, and I've heard
Okay.
this before, that people are getting information and I'm getting, bits and pieces, but through the council, not through the planning commission.
I think it's just coming to us directly, I think. I think they
Okay.
just maybe found our emails on the website. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, plus, do you have a city council email address then?
No.
That's part of it too then. Okay,
Right, because you have a city email address, correct? Whereas
right.
otherwise commissioners use their personal email addresses.
Okay, thanks. I feel like I'm left out.
Well, would that be something in our process when we do see a CC chain of multiple commissioners? Is it appropriate for planning staff to then make sure it's forwarded to everybody? Is
It
that
is,
something,
and-
I don't want to, my instinct is, let me do that for anyone not included, but I don't think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I would say no, Commissioner, yeah. But maybe forward it to Andrew and me, and if it's relevant to a general topic, we can just post it with whatever applicable.
And if we
agenda
get, if you forward a question that you've received, we'll always provide the response to everybody because we assume that if one person's gotten the question, others are getting it as well.
I just, to understand, I have gotten emails, but I'm just curious whether they're the same emails and same comments.
Right,
So is the Rovina Apartments proposed to be 100% affordable?
yes.
Okay, so then would we have the objective design standards done in enough time for them to be applied to that project?
No, because the SB 330 says that it's objective standards that are in place at the time that application is made. Right. So I think that the second regular meeting of this month, which would be the 26th, then we can wrap up that workshop add-on SB 330, SB 35. That'll be a nice prep for the objective design standards study sessions. So if you have other topics, if due process or any other topics that you would like us to weave into that, we'd be more than happy to do so.
I put a big vote in for due process because I think that's really central and a concept I'm still kind of getting my head wrapped around.
Sure, great, we'll do that for sure then.
Okay, and I should share briefly too, I forgot in my PBAC update, we saw Scanell again and the bike and ped plan, and actually they had chosen a design and made some changes. So I do advise commissioners here to at least do the highlights of that PBAC meeting. It was an interesting meeting. It was a time when a lot of those commissioners and council liaison Brian Barnacle got to see the project and make commentary outside of PBAC. So I thought it was a really interesting meeting. Well, with that, we will close staff comment, and barring any other items of consideration, I will adjourn the meeting right at 7:02 p.m.
Great, thank you.